Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the next video in my bullet journal basics series where I'm doing a deep dive into how I apply the bullet journal method to my particular planner, my flavor of sort of the key components, and basically how I plan. I'm trying to do more in-depth videos talking through some of the questions that I've gotten over the last few years. So today I want to talk about my particular key and the bullets that I use and how I use them in my planner. So hopefully this video will help you decode some of my posts if you're looking at them. And maybe I'll pick up some of the bullets or signifiers that I use that can maybe be beneficial for you. Now, I have not written out my key in my planner for many years because I have more or less stuck with the same few symbols over the last few years. So at this point, to me, it is second nature. So I'm going to write them out today on a sticky note and then show you how I apply them in my planner. And as always, if you guys have any questions or something doesn't make sense, let me know down below and I will do my best to explain it in the comments if I don't cover it very well in this video. Having a good key to use and symbols that are meaningful to you and become second nature help you to very quickly translate thoughts floating around in your head onto paper, and you can decide very quickly as you are rapidly decluttering your mind whether it is a task, event, something you need to remember, a note, and then you can review it and determine if you need to take action on those things or not. So for me, the main benefit is it allows me to meaningfully declutter my brain. So let's start with the ones that I use. For reference, this is my Pilot Vanishing Point. It is a fountain pen. It's my favorite. I'll have all the details linked down below for you. So let's start at the beginning, the bullet. So in the traditional bullet journal method, the bullet is a task. And lately I've actually picked up using the bullet again. Sometimes I'll leave the square next to my task blank, and to me that can indicate that is a task as well. But I'm finding just having a dot actually to be quite beneficial when I am glancing through my notes and in a particular column, and I can tell very quickly whether it is an open task or not. The way I signify a completed task is with an X. I sometimes use a check mark, but I would definitely recommend the X because you get the bonus of 2 hash marks. So if you have a larger project and you want the motivation to start it, you can do your first strike through to indicate that you started the task. And then you can come through and do your second strike through to show a completed task. The next important bullet for me is the event designator. So I use an open circle to denote that I have an event. So this could be, for me, it's typically a meeting, an appointment, or something I need to leave my house for. Sometimes I typically use an event for anything that's timed. So if I have a meeting at 10 a.m., that's how I would denote it. Or if it's an errand, I need to leave the house, I might just write Target because to me, it's a lot of work to leave my house. A completed event, I simply fill the circle in, and this helps my planner evolve from a task list to now it's starting to look like a log. So this event has passed, and I did the thing. So I attended that meeting, I went to that concert. I no longer need to pay attention to it, it is filled in, but I went. The next thing that can be helpful in your system is determining things that are canceled. So if I have a canceled task, so maybe I determine it no longer applies, I no longer need to do that research, someone else did that thing for me, or maybe there are no consequences if I simply do not do this thing, I will go ahead and strike the whole thing through so that I know that task is canceled. I'm a big fan of striking through versus trying to white out something you're no longer or going to do or doesn't apply, because I like having the history that I was going to do this thing, but I didn't follow through with it. And at the end of the day, it's faster, and I think it looks a little bit neater than trying to do any kind of cover up. Same thing with appointments. A canceled appointment, I simply will just strike through. So I will have my event And if it gets canceled, I'll strike through, typically just a circle. Sometimes I go through the whole thing, just depends on my mood. Next important portion of the bullets when it comes to decoding the original bullet journal method is a term called migration, or migrating a task. To define that a little bit, when you hear migration, at least how I'm going to use that term within my planner, it means I am moving the task or the appointment forward. So I did not get to this task today. I need to still do this tomorrow. I will go ahead and migrate that task so it doesn't appear open on my list, and I know I have rewritten that task in a space where I will see it again and it still needs to be completed. Same thing with migrating an event. Maybe that got rescheduled. I will mark that as migrated and I've updated when that new appointment is. So the symbol that is used to push things forward in the bullet journal method is this arrow to the right. Another key within the bullet journal method, if you schedule something, so say I had a task and it was schedule doctor's appointment, instead of marking that completed, you could go ahead and draw an arrow backwards, so pointing to the left, to indicate that you have scheduled it and it now lives in your future dates portion of your planner, either in that monthly calendar or your future log if you are adhering to a more traditional bullet journal setup. I typically won't use that. I'll just kind of use the migrated task, or I'll mark that complete, because personally I know if I've scheduled an appointment, I've already written it in on the date that appointment is going to happen in my monthly calendar. But that way, if you see that, that's likely what that symbol means. Rescheduled events, I typically will draw an arrow through to indicate a migrated or rescheduled appointment, just because I think it looks a little bit cleaner than trying to draw an arrow over it on just the head of the arrow, I guess. Okay, other signifiers that I use that are a little bit more on the logging perspective. For me, these are the core things that I think make up the functional portion of the bullet journal method. But now, instead of it being a task or event focused planning system, the thing that I think elevates how I have interpreted the bullet journal method is the use of the note signifier. And this little guy here helped open my mind up to other things that I wanted to log. So I'll go through the additional ones that I've added. But this is a core one that I think gets lost. One of the things I really love about the bullet journal method is that there is a key for writing down notes and thoughts. Sometimes I have something just floating around in my head and I need to write it down so I don't lose it. It's not something I need to do, but I want to read it again. This is when I use that note. I use the note signifier to go along with the task or an event. Maybe I need to bring a bag of chips to this party. I could note underneath it that as a reminder to grab the chips, or you could do that as a subtask if you want to check that off later. So the notes can sort of add to any of your existing tasks or events, but I also think it's a great way to say, at the end of a meeting, you feel really negative. You can note you're feeling negative after this meeting and why. And then when you go back and reflect later on, you can start to kind of put this piece of how are your tasks and the things you're spending your time, how are they making you feel? Is it valuable? Are you getting things out of what you're putting your effort into? So it sort of opens the door to that whole reflection process that goes along with the bullet journal method. So these are kind of the main bullets. Let me go through and start showing you the ones that I have added to this over the years. So along the notes and thoughts signifier, one that I use a ton that you guys have probably seen is a heart. I use a heart to denote a memory, usually positive, sometimes negative. Sometimes I find if I have a negative memory, I will note that with a thought, but I use them kind of interchangeably. But these are little things that happen throughout the day. Maybe my husband says something funny that made me laugh, or I'm reading a book I'm really enjoying. This is where I would note the little things that happen throughout the day, and this is the thing that allows me to take my planner from being a planner to being more of a hybrid between a productivity tool and a memory keeping book. And I absolutely love this symbol. I also use an 8th note to mark music that I'm really into. If an album from an artist I like is releasing, I will use that to note when that release date is. If there's a song I've been listening to on repeat, I will add that in the sections throughout my planner as well. The other two are a little bit more admin. I often use a plus sign to denote medical things. Sometimes I will do the plus sign as a note, hey, here I took 2 ibuprofen, that kind of thing. I will also use this as a signifier. So it could be put on the left of an event. So for example, if I have a doctor's appointment, I would do like this. Doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. This lets me know it's a medical appointment. This lets me know it's an event. Things like that. Also might use it as a note, you know, not feeling super great. Instead of using the note to say not feeling super great, I might do the medical, bad stomach ache, things like that. Last one that can be either a signifier or a bullet for me is the $, and this is just financial information. So if I paid a bill and it wasn't a task, I might just do the $, and say note paid bill with this card, for example. Or it could be a signifier like, hey, I need to file my taxes. So the task is file taxes, but it is a financially related task, so I will add a signifier. Okay, so here's all my main bullets. Now let's talk about signifiers. So signifiers are something that you can tack on, typically to the left of a bullet. So when you're skimming through everything that you've just downloaded from your brain onto paper that you need to accomplish or you're thinking about and you want to review later, a signifier can help give importance to these things. In the traditional bullet journal method, an asterisk is used to the left of a symbol to determine its importance. I personally have not applied that particular signifier, but the ones I do use quite regularly is a dot next to a task. And if I had a dot next to a work or a task, this is a work thing. So in this case, this would be a work task that I need to do. Or if I have a work meeting. Sometimes I have a lot of work stuff that I put in my personal planner, which is why I choose to use a dot. It's just very quick for me to add versus something intricate that I would need to try and draw to denote work-related things. Signifiers help me see information quickly, and I can either focus in on that or quickly ignore that. So if I'm in my work hour block, I'm skimming my planner for these double dot situations. If I am after working hours, I can pretty much ignore anything with a double dot until the next work day. So that's kind of how I use those signifiers. Medical, I could use as a signifier. $, I use as a signifier. Another one I use is a triangle for YouTube related tasks. Currently planning a trip, so I'm using I for that. We're looking at an Iceland trip. B is another one you'll see in my planner a lot, and that is something I need to remind my husband of, or something he needs to do. So I'll denote it as a task it needs to get done, but I've asked him to handle it for me, so I can just remind him or follow up with him to see if it got done. Okay, so this is the key, I guess, rather, to decoding my bullet journal. So let me just flip through and show you some examples. I'm going to start in the back with the daily logs because I think this is the cleanest place to look at it. So for example, looking through, anything with a dot is a task that I need to do. We'll see I've got 2 canceled tasks up top. Anything with an X is a completed task. Open circles are events typically timed or things I need to leave my house for. So for example, I need to go for a run over lunch today and I need to film at 5 because it is the only time my house will be quiet. I know it's a YouTube film because I have a triangle to the left of it. And that was a signifier like I mentioned. Bonus tip for me is something I do in my planner is I line up all my bullets through an entire page the best I can. So I can quickly skim to see, are there any open tasks that I haven't done yet? And I've got 2 right there. Here's where I use a $sign as a bullet to note that we spent some money that day. Another thing that I do is with my subtasks. Let me find last Thursday. So I do laundry on Thursdays. My overall task is laundry. I do 3 loads when I do laundry: hang dry, normal, and athletic wash. And I denote all 3 of those as subtasks, but instead of checking them off on the bullet for my subtasks, I check them off in line with the rest of my bullets because it's easier for me to see what is still left to do. Now, if your subtasks have subtasks, it might break down a little bit, but that is something that I find helps me quickly find what I need to do a little bit faster. Here we've got an arrow forward, so I push forward that editing, determined it needed to happen, so I migrated it to my next page. I've got lots of hearts here to the left to denote memories that I wanted to keep. And flipping into my weekly dots for my tasks, all in line. I leave a column to the left so I can add more signifiers. An event that happened, open event, and again, tasks, and then subtasks right down below that. So hopefully this made sense and maybe you picked up a couple bullets that you could use. If you use any bullets or signifiers that I didn't mention, let me know what you use down below. We can all pick up some tips from each other. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. But if you made it this long, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you next time.